Yup. Yup. I guess Horikoshi's just going full steam ahead with this, right? And we really have no choice but to just follow in turn. So all I can really add to this mess is place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Place your bets. Who's it going to be? Izuku Midoriya, whom I've now taken to calling Darth Deku. I don't think this arc has a name yet, like an official one, but can we just go ahead and call it the Darth Deku arc of My Hero Academia? I think that fits very well. With the power of One for All at his disposal versus literally the rest of Class 1A. You would assume Class 1A would win, but you never know. And more importantly, who's going to deal the finishing blow? Who's going to finally be the one to knock Izuku out and be like, all right, we need to take you back. You know, you need to get a shower. We need to wash your clothes. This is getting ridiculous, right? I'm going to bet on, you know what? This might be a bit controversial. I'm going to throw all my chips on Sato. That's right. Maybe Shoji. I'll put some chips on Shoji, but most of them on Sato, all right? You know, because Sato really hasn't had anything important to do, like, this entire story. You know, they're probably gonna start the fight off like the chapter ended with Ida, Bakugo, Uraraka, probably Kirishima. They're, like, the main cast of Class 1A. They're gonna attack Izuku first. Hell, they might even manage to pin him down. But then Izuku's probably just gonna, like, Hulk out or something with, like, one for all! Knock him off, and then it's gonna be like, now bring it on, who's next? And he's gonna beat everyone else down, and then he's just gonna be standing there amidst the puddle of his friends, and he's just gonna be like, yeah, I told you, I just wanted to do it on my own. And then Sato's just gonna walk up behind him and just sugar bash! Bam! Just knock him down in one hit. And that's Sato's gonna save the day, you know, mark my words, right? I wonder if anybody, because the last few chapters, this has kind of led up to this, so it's been a popular idea that Izuku's friends, because he's disregarded All Might, he's disregarded Endeavor and Hawks and Genist, he's going out on his own, truly on his own, with no contact with anybody. A lot of people assumed it's going to come down to the Class 1A coming to save him, right? And so, maybe the last few chapters you could assume this, but I wonder if there was anybody out there, like, years ago that was, like, had some crazy theory, like, you know what I think? I think Izuku Midoriya, there's gonna be a story arc where he's gonna go up against the rest of his friends in Class 1A in a no-holds-barred battle royale! You know, maybe, like, back in 2016, and people were just to say, man, you're crazy, that's not going to happen. Well, this is gonna be fantastic for you, I'm just saying. So this will be chapter 319, titled Friends, of course, the Friends of Izuku. We finally see what they've all been up to while Izuku's been on his little mission. You know, how long has that been going on? We don't exactly know. I like to think it's been at least a few weeks with Izuku being out there trudging around in the mud and in the rain. You know, because when he started off, when we saw him, you know, at the beginning of this arc on top of the building, you know, his clothing was kind of tattered from the war, but he was still very much still acting like Izuku. He was very serious, he was very focused, but he still listened to All Might. He still traveled around. He kept in regular contact with Hawks and Best Jeanist and Endeavor. He took the lunches that All Might prepared, but after, I would say, at least maybe 1 or 2 weeks of this, and he's really not resting at all. I mean, he obviously has to sleep a little bit. Well, actually, you know what? Who knows? Maybe he doesn't have to sleep, because One for All, you don't even know what that entails. Maybe he could just keep on running and running, and he doesn't have to sleep because One for All is just so strong. But if he is sleeping, it's only for like a little bit at a time, like resting for like 15 minutes and like, oh, there's a new assassin over there, gotta go fight, and then defeats them and just constantly going from assassin to assassin. I mentioned before, Izuku's behavior is getting a lot more robotic and mechanical in that regard, basically an obsession at this point against All for One. And the thing is, and just like Dictator said in the last chapter, All for One pretty much has Izuku's number. He knows all about him, okay? He knows about his personality. He knows that Izuku was raised in this hero-saturated society, and he knows he looked up to All Might as his role model, just like a lot of other kids did at the time, right? So he knows that, you know, with All Might giving his quirk to Izuku, Izuku's idea here, after the war and after Hero Society has fallen into disrepair, he's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to do this all on my own. I'm going to be the next symbol of peace. I'm going to be the next pillar. I'm going to take everything onto myself and try to solve the problem myself. And All for One knows that 100%. He's like psychologically analyzing Izuku from afar. And he's like, okay, all I really got to do then is just keep throwing assassins at them. Yeah, he'll probably beat the shit out of them, but, you know, how many? 1, 2, 3, 6, 10, 12. I have assassins for days. I'll just keep tossing them at Izuku. Eventually, he's going to disregard and distance himself from everybody. He's going to be all on his own on some rainy, stormy night. And then, it's going to just finally, he's going to run out of gas. And then he's going to pass out. And then at that point, all we have to do is pick him up and bring him back to all for one. And then, boom, you have one for all. There you go. It's done, right? And so, honestly, if Class 1A did not show up when they did, that plan might have worked. Izuku probably would have lost to Dictator. He didn't really have a way to fight back against him. And, because he's so exhausted, he can't really think straight, right? And that's the thing. Like, if you've ever been in a period in your life where you're not getting a lot of sleep or you have, like, insomnia or something, after days and days of that, and maybe even longer in Izuku's case right here, that is going to warp your mind. And so Izuku is just laser focused on this to a fault where he's not paying attention to even care of his own body, right? He's not eating right or drinking, properly. He's probably dehydrated and all that crap. And he's just like, need to fight all for one, need to defeat all for one. And it is exemplified in this chapter where even when his friends, all of his friends, that's the reason he's fighting. And we even heard that in his inner monologue. It's like Izuku's kind of inner monologue is just repeating on an endless loop. Like, I need to smile with all my friends. In order to smile with all my friends, I need to defeat all for one. I'll defeat all for one and smile with all my friends. I'll defeat all for one and smile with all my friends. To the point where it's like it's kind of lost a little bit of meaning to him, because here are his friends. Here's every single one of his friends from school are surrounding him and being like, Izuku, it's okay. You don't need to do this anymore. Or let us help you. We're here to help you. Don't you want to smile with us? Isn't that the whole point? Well, we're here with you right now. We'll smile with you right now. But, you can't keep doing this to yourself. And Izuku doesn't even care. He gets back up at the end of the chapter, and he's just like, get out of my way! I'm Darth Deku now! And you know what? I can't show it, unfortunately, but go back and look at that last scene of the chapter where Izuku gets up. Not the last page, but the second to last page with Izuku, right? So he's got the mask on, he's got that thing on his face, which is supposed to resemble a smile. The whole reason Izuku chose that for his costume was because it resembled a smile, but now it's all chipped and broken and covered in muck, and it looks like a broken, like, demon smirk rather than like a happy smile, like everything's gonna be okay, right? But go back and look at that page. Not only does Izuku look demonic, but where his cowl, his hood, kind of ends, and then you have, like, Gran Torino's all ripped up scarf, it looks like, from another perspective, it looks like Izuku has, like, a giant, like, devil mouth, like, snarling at his friends. Like, there's, like, a certain perspective you can look at it where he looks one way, and another where it even looks worse, alright? And then the final page is Bakugo, Ida, and Uraraka that are definitely going to lead the charge here. Bakugo is like, oh, bring it on, you All Might wannabe. Like, Bakugo actually has some really good moments in this chapter, and you could definitely see where Horikoshi's going with this, flipping the characters big time. Just in the way that Bakugo arrived last time and defeated Dictator with his AP shot, right? Just the look on his face, his eyes, it showed a genuine amount of, like, care and, like, concern for Izuku, right? Meanwhile, while Izuku is just like, need to finish, all for one needs to die. So that's kind of how it is, where Horikoshi's kind of flipping the way that their characters are kind of presented at the beginning of the story, right? Where Bakugo is now the one showing concern. But he knows, like, Bakugo kind of knew going into this, like, we could try to bring him quietly, but he's going to probably be so far gone at this point, we're going to have to fight him. And Bakugo's like, if I have to beat the crap out of him to bring him back, I'm all for that. I'll do it. So Bakugo's like, yeah, let's go, All Might wannabe. And Ida's like, we're your friends, so we're going to stop you. We knew that you probably wouldn't come quietly. It's kind of past that. And Uraraka's just like, yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's take him down. So of course, like, they're not going to try to hurt Izuku, like, permanently, of course. Will Izuku come at them with deadly force? You would say no, definitely not, because those are his friends, and he still acknowledges them as friends. Once again, I'm just saying, dude's kind of wrecked, he doesn't get a lot of sleep, so he might start hallucinating and shit, right? Like, freaking Ida might come at Deku and try to, like, restrain him and bring him in. Izuku might start hallucinating and seeing Ida as all for one and just like, ah! And just punch Ida really hard and knock him into a wall, like, oh, crap, alright. Like, I'm just saying, with One For All at his disposal and Fa Jin and, like, the pseudo 100% he has, he can pretty much activate at any given time. He might still have some stored up energy from Fa Jin that he hasn't used yet. Maybe he was going to use it on Dictator, and then his friends showed up, and he might even use that on them, right? They're going to have to come at Izuku with lethal force in order to pin him down and bring him in and, like, knock him out or whatever. I'm assuming that is their ultimate goal, trying to knock Izuku out. Maybe Shinso might be with them. Shinso might have joined up with Class 1A, and we didn't see him in the group shot yet, but Shinso might arrive, or he might be off to the side. They might be like, all right, we're going to go and confront him. We're going to take out Dictator, and then we're going to confront Izuku. Maybe he'll come quietly. Maybe we can reason with him because we're his friends. But on the off chance that doesn't work, Shinso, your brainwashing quirk is insanely useful against, like, at least stalling Izuku for a time and quelling his powers, at least for a moment. He is able to break out of it, but he might be able to be stalled for long enough for us to restrain him and get him back to school and, like, you know, give him a shower and so he can calm down a bit, you know? So I guess that's their goal. Either Shinso is there to help them, which I assume he probably was. Like, even if Shinso joined Class 1B, which I don't think he did, I think he joined Class 1A, because Horikoshi's kind of pushing him to be part of the main cast as well. But, you know, even if he didn't, he would still go there because he's Izuku's friend, okay? And so Shinso might be there definitely to help brainwash him, but failing that, try to knock him out, right? Just try to knock him out so they can restrain him and bring him back, okay? But yeah, Izuku, man, it's getting to the point here where he can't see anything but his vengeance, all right? And he needs to settle down. I think just getting him, like, a good night's sleep and just calming him down and getting him out of all of his, like, ragged, you know, hero clothing and everything, and just giving him, like, a day or two of rest would help immensely. Like, I can imagine if they do bring him back and then he just rests for, like, 3 days straight and then wakes up and just, like, all of his friends are around him, maybe Bakugo, maybe Uraraka's there with some tea, and just be like, okay, are you good? Here's some tea. Izuku's like, I tried to kill all of you, didn't I? He's like, yeah, you did. You punched Ida through a wall, so, yeah, that's a thing, but we understand you were kind of, you had a lot of stress going on, lots of anxiety, you know, so we understand. We're just glad we were able to bring you in. Are you feeling okay, buddy? Izuku's like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I still need to stop All For One. He's like, yeah, you do, but we're going to help you do that, all right? You don't need to do everything on your own. By the way, just because All Might was the symbol of peace and he was the pillar that held up society for 4 decades does not mean that Izuku has to do that too, nor does that mean that was the right thing for All Might to do. That was the conclusion All Might arrived to after the death of Nana and after he traveled to America. We saw that in All Might Rising. He said, you know, I will return from America to my home country of Japan with the power to save everyone with all of my might. So that was like All Might's, like, drive, you know, back then. Like, I'm gonna become so strong I can help everybody out, okay? And yeah, he was able to do that, but that also created, like, the dark shadow of the villain organizations that we saw, and then All For One could kind of rise to power from that, because what All For One basically aimed for was like, okay, yeah, All Might be so strong, but eventually that pillar is gonna topple, and when it does, when All Might is gone, all of Hero Society is going to crumble apart, and it did. And so All Might, that might have not have been the best option for All Might, taking everything on his own shoulders, and Izuku's trying to do the exact same thing. Not a good idea, okay? The rest of the chapter just kind of like Class 1A talking about the letter that Izuku left them, because that's how he chose to leave UA. He didn't explain this to anybody. He just wrote a letter out explaining One For All, and like, I got All Might's power, and now All For One wants my power. I can't stay in school anymore. I gotta leave. So all of the students, they're not stupid. They figure out, like, okay, there's been an announcement that Endeavor, Genist, and Hawks, the top 3 heroes, are all working together now. Izuku left UA. Also, at the same time, All Might left UA, so they can piece this stuff together. It's not hard. It's like they formed, like, a 5-person team to go out there in the world and hunt down All For One, basically. You know, Endeavor's not saying anything to Shoto. You know, Genist isn't saying anything to Bakugo. Hawks is not saying anything to Tokoyami. By the way, Okay, I want to see. I mentioned this last time. I need to see Tokoyami going up against Darth Deku. He shows up with Dark Shadow, like he's like, Izuku, I appreciate you falling into the darkness, but I was just saying that to be like edgy. I didn't mean actually fall into like, you look like a damn devil lord right now. We gotta bring you in, right? But I gotta see that Tokoyami versus Izuku. I think there would be some clever dialogue there with choices with Tokoyami. It'd be really cool. But yeah, anyway, they're not getting any information from anybody, right? We also get a little bit more stuff on exactly the state of UA right now. So obviously all classes are suspended after this war. The students are, kept into the dorms. They're not really allowed to leave campus. Basically, they're not second years yet, because remember, at this point, it's in like mid-April, and this would be under normal circumstances. That's when the next school year begins in Japan, which kind of sucks for the kids because they didn't even get really a good vacation. They were busy fighting a war for their break in between years. But anyway, yeah, so they're not second years yet. They're still technically first years. Classes are suspended, and they're basically just security detail for all of the parents and everybody that moved into UA grounds, all right? Well, Uraraka has a really clever idea after all of this. After the class meeting, Uraraka gets up and she's like, Endeavor and All Might are UA alumni, so we could probably just go to the principal about this and voice our concerns. And so they do that, and Principal Nezu is like, yeah, that's a good point. They really should be filling you in on this, And so Principal Nezu agrees. He invites Endeavor over to the school, like, Endeavor, you need to get over to UA right now. It's urgent business. And Endeavor's like, all right, we're dealing with a lot of important stuff, but I'll make time. And so he shows up to Nezu's office, and then Class 1A walks in, and Endeavor's like, you tricked me. And Nezu's like, look, I understand why you did it, and plus Shoto, especially, trying to make him safe and everything from Toya and everybody, Dabi. I understand, I get it, but Nezu is like, look, these are Izuku's classmates. They deserve to know. Like, you can't leave them in the dark about all this, right? And so Todoroki's like, Dad, how come you've been ignoring me and everything? And Endeavor's like, oh, Shoto, just the fact you want to help means the world to me, but I just can't let you be in danger. But he's like, oh, okay, but it's okay for Izuku to be in danger. And he's like, well, that's different. And he's like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. We're all of his friends. We're all here. We want to fight. We want to make sure he's safe, okay? So you gotta tell us. You gotta tell us where he's at so we can go bring him back. And Endeavor's like, you kids don't understand. Like, there's a reason we're keeping you on campus right now, okay? The world out there is completely different from what you remember a couple months ago. Hero Society has completely demolished. No, it's not safe. And they're like, listen, we're proper heroes at this point, okay? Every single one of us, we have the license, but beyond that, we're all heroes, and we're going to save our friend. If we can't save our friend, what heroes are we going to be, right? So they agree. Endeavor agrees. He gives them the GPS. He gives them his phone that has the lock on for Izuku and like where he's at now, all that stuff. We have some cool scenes from with Sero and Koda where they mention like we had no idea who Izuku was before a year ago. We were just classmates, and we might not even have gotten put in the same class. We might have been in a different class. So we don't know much about Izuku, but he's our friend, and we've gotten to know him over the last year, even though he kept all these secrets from us. He kept One for All from us, because all the students know now. Izuku put in his letter exactly what One for All was, and how he got the power, and All Might, and everything, and they're on board with this. They're cool with this, okay? They don't hold anything against Izuku. I mean, maybe a little bit, but they're like, we understand why he had to do it, so we're gonna go save him now, okay? And Bakugo is leading the charge here. Bakugo, Uraraka, and Ida are all kind of coming together here. By the way, there was a really cool cover spread, so go check that out. But anyway, yeah, Bakugo's like, listen, I know Deku better than everybody else here, okay? Anybody else, I know Deku. All right, he only thinks about others. He doesn't think about himself. He gets laser focused. He's out there probably suffering right now, and he's too focused to even know that he's suffering as much as he is, okay? So we have to bring him back, okay? And so they're a little bit concerned about UA because all of Class 1A is like the security force, and they're leaving. So isn't UA going to be defenseless? And that's like one of the big targets All for One would be going after. Principal Nezu's like, oh, don't worry. We've actually upgraded the UA barrier, actually right around the time the Cultural Fest was going on. We just never had a chance to use it, but don't worry, we're fine. It's not all bluster anymore. We'll be okay. So that implies, like, there's some really top-level security, like laser turrets, missile launchers, giant electrified cannons with fences on the cannons. I don't know, but like something's going on here with this UA barrier. I kind of want to see that in action, right? That makes me think, right around the time the Cultural Fest, maybe if Gentle and La Brava managed to make it to UA grounds, they would have just gotten incinerated where they stood. Like, La Brava, let us go and make our glorious introduction upon UA. And intruder alert. Wait, what? Just got blasted apart. All right, that might be a thing where if All for One launches, hey, that might be a thing. Like, they get Izuku, bring him back to UA, and he's resting, and then All for One's just like, you know what, screw it, launch a full-on attack on UA, and then just have a bunch of villains and Nomu just raid UA, and the freaking laser cannons come out, and it's like a freaking war zone. That could happen, totally, 100%. But man, this chapter was very powerful. I'm glad that these characters are being portrayed in a way that makes sense. You know, like, yeah, Bakugo, you know, he's normally like, you know, shut up, nerd, I hate you, you should go die. But at the end of the day, he's like, all right, I don't want Izuku to die. I might say that, but that's more of like my catchphrase or whatever. Look, I'm his friend. He's gonna do something stupid and end up getting captured eventually. We have to help him, okay? All the other students, they're not just going out on their own. That's what I kind of like about this. They're not just like, screw the rules. Let's sneak out of school and just do it. No, they're like, let's like try to go through the proper channels here first and see if the adults would help us. And Nezu, being very rational, is like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I will help you here. And he also, Nezu, there's another line with him that's really cool. He says, UA is your family. Okay, we're always going to protect you. We're always going to be here for you. And that includes Endeavor and All Might, because they're alumni as well. And we even see a scene with Uraraka's past. When Uraraka was accepted into UA, she's like crying with her mom. Like, Mom, I'm so happy I joined UA. You know, so it's like, we are family. We are a safe haven, so to speak. And by the way, Nezu states that even though Izuku did technically drop out, he just left school, he's like, there will be a place for him to come back. Like, we understand why he had to do that. We're not just going to like kick him out of school or whatever. It's just like, we understand why he's doing all this. Okay, you guys can go bring him back. Be safe. But he'll be welcome back in open arms. Okay, so everything will be all right on that front. And even Endeavor in this chapter was really good. I mean, yeah, he puts up some opposition, but he's a parent. He's a parent, and he's starting to learn about, like, okay, I don't want my kid to die, and so that's why he's not telling Shoto, and he doesn't want anybody else to die, and so that's really where the opposition comes from Endeavor. But even he realizes, I think Nezu and Endeavor realize, if they do not give the green light for the students to go and rescue Izuku, they're going to do it anyway, and they're probably going to do it in a much more dangerous way, because they have to sneak out of UA and do everything on their own. You know, they're going to do it anyway. We might as well give them the support that they need in order to go and help. And I'm sure Endeavor and Hawks and Genus will be there to back them all up as well. All Might might be having a dealing with Stain right now, and we don't know how that's going to go. But yeah, this is definitely going down a road that I did not think my hero was ever going to, you know, go. But here we are, and I'm very interested in how this is going to happen. It might end up with Izuku getting knocked out. It might end up with Izuku just breaking down and crying. You know, just like so emotional. Last chapter, I think the most powerful scene last chapter was not just Bakugo's expression, but when Izuku was being mobbed by all of Dictator's, you know, his minions, that his quirk, Despot, and he was like controlling all the civilians. They were like, you know, attacking Izuku and pinning him down and like ripping off his cloak and everything, but he couldn't attack them because, you know, they're innocent civilians. So I guess in that instance, Izuku has a little bit of awareness, but even so, it's kind of tentative right now. It's holding on by a thread. But Izuku was just being mobbed by all these people, pulled down, and he's just like, I'll help you. Just don't worry. I know it's not your fault. I'll help you. And it's kind of just like the bags under his eyes. He's just like, I gotta do something. But he's just like so tired and worn out that he doesn't know what to do, and he can't really think straight, right? But now he's genuinely like angry and lashing out at his friends, because I guess Izuku himself doesn't want to admit what he's become, and his friends are kind of telling him what, like, Izuku, it's time to stop. And Izuku probably still thinks he's in the right. He's in the right 100%. This is the way it has to be done. This is the way I have to do it. I can't second guess myself. And then his friends are like, no, it's okay to second guess yourself. It's okay to stop and think about what you're doing and calm down. But he doesn't want to think about that. So yeah, we'll see what happens. If Izuku would happen to like seriously critically injure one of the members of Class 1A, who do you think it would be? Do you think it would be like Shoji or Sato, somebody we really don't pay much attention to? Or do you think it would be Ida or Bakugo or maybe even Uraraka? Like, oh my god, can you imagine? Like, holy shit, can you see that? Like, Uraraka coming after Izuku, and then Izuku just reflexively, like, ah! Punches her or something, and he just, like, that would be the moment where his mind just cracks and breaks, like, the hell am I doing? You know, like, and then he realizes really what happened. He's like, guys, I'm sorry, I just can't. And then his brain just shuts off and he just passes out, right? Oh, one more thing I wanted to bring up. At the end of last chapter, we also had the members of the Vestiges of One for All talking about the state that Izuku was in. And they couldn't really do anything to stop him. I mean, they can kind of talk to him and be like, you need to calm down. But he's not even listening to them anymore, right? So there was a moment where the second user of One for All, who was the rebellion leader, like the resistance leader against All for One originally, the one that looks like Bakugo, but the scar, he's like, you know, he's doing the right thing right now, you know, fighting against, you know, All for One directly, but maybe we should help him out a bit, okay? So it was implied maybe his quirk, the second's quirk, has some, like, telepathy ability, and that's how, like, Bakugo and everybody found out Izuku's location. Now, in this chapter, we find out, no, it was from the GPS and everything, but still, that might be something else the second user has in store to, like, help Izuku to calm him down or, you know, change his mindset a bit. Also, involving the second user really quick, I know there was that theory that he was like future Bakugo, you know, like his time-traveling twin or something. He like went back in time and, you know, started the resistance movement and then he died and, you know, whatever. But really, I mean, like, couldn't he just be like Bakugo's great-grandfather or something, like a family member? Because he does look very similar to Bakugo. The hairstyle and even like the wrist gauntlets looks very similar to Bakugo. Maybe he's just, you know, Bakugo's great-grandfather or maybe like great-uncle or some kind of family member from like over 100 years ago that started the resistance movement against All for One. Like, couldn't it just be as simple as that? Like, that probably would make a lot more sense, to be honest with you. But at any rate, yeah, that was the chapter 319. A lot of crazy stuff happened, and I'm waiting to see how the fight goes. You know, who gets hurt and what finally ends up, what's the impetus for Izuku realizing that he needs to stop? You know, what's that going to be? So let me know your theories and comment down below and all that good jazz. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking and Barry and All Might signing out.